Everyone knows Pandora opened the box. That is the headline. The first woman. The forbidden container. The moment curiosity ruined the world. One hand lifted the lid, and suddenly sickness, grief, hunger, violence, fear, old age, and death poured into human life. Before Pandora, the story says, humanity lived without those horrors. After Pandora, suffering became part of being alive. So history gave her the blame. Pandora, the woman who could not resist. Pandora, the warning about curiosity. Pandora, the reason paradise ended. Clean story. Simple suspect. Perfect scapegoat. But cold cases are never that clean. Because when you reopen the Pandora file, the first thing you notice is not the jar. It is not the smoke. It is not even the hand reaching for the lid. It is the planning. Pandora did not build the jar. Pandora did not fill it with suffering. Pandora did not invent disease, death, grief, or pain. Pandora did not start the conflict between Zeus and Prometheus. She entered the story after the punishment had already been designed. And that changes everything. Tonight, we are reopening one of mythology's oldest blame files. Case file, Pandora. Charge, unleashing evil into the world. Official motive, curiosity. Primary suspect, Zeus, king of the gods. Known accomplices, Hephaestus, Athena, Aphrodite, Hermes, and the divine court of Olympus. Victims, humanity. Secondary victim, Pandora herself. Primary question, did Pandora doom the world? Or was she created to take the fall for a crime Zeus had already committed? The official story begins after Prometheus steals fire. Prometheus, the titan who loves humanity, looks at mortals struggling in the dark. They are weak compared to gods. They freeze. They fear the night. They depend on divine permission for survival. So Prometheus gives them fire, not just flame, technology, warmth, cooking, metalwork, protection, a future. Fire changes humanity from a helpless species into a dangerous one. And Zeus notices. To Zeus, fire is not charity. It is stolen property. It is a power transfer. It means humans can rise higher than he wants them to rise. So Zeus punishes Prometheus. He chains him to a rock. An eagle tears at his liver. Every day, the wound returns. Every day, the punishment repeats. That part of the case is obvious divine retaliation. But Zeus is not finished. He wants humanity punished too. And this is where Pandora enters the file. Zeus orders Hephaestus to create a woman from earth and water. The gods decorate her with gifts: beauty, charm, grace, skill, persuasion, a voice, a face made to be received, admired, trusted. They name her Pandora, the all-gifted. But that name is evidence, because gifts in Greek mythology are rarely innocent. A divine gift often comes with a hook hidden inside it. Pandora is presented as a blessing, but her creation is ordered during a punishment operation. That makes her less like a bride and more like an engineered delivery system. Zeus sends her to Epimetheus, Prometheus's brother. Prometheus had warned Epimetheus not to accept gifts from Zeus, but Epimetheus accepts her. Then comes the jar. Not a box, originally, a jar. A sealed container holding the sufferings that will invade human life. And eventually, Pandora opens it. The evils escape. Only hope remains inside. That is the official verdict. Pandora opened the jar. Case closed. But an investigator has to ask the questions the myth moves past too quickly. Who loaded the jar? Who placed it near her? Who created Pandora for this exact moment? And why is the woman at the end of the chain blamed more than the god who built the chain? The original crime is not Pandora opening the jar. The original crime is Zeus deciding that humanity had to pay for receiving fire. That is where motive begins. Zeus is not responding to Pandora. Pandora does not exist yet. Zeus is responding to Prometheus. A rebel stole from Olympus and gave the stolen power to mortals. Zeus sees a threat to hierarchy. If humans have fire, they have tools. If they have tools, they have cities. If they have cities, they have ambition. If they have ambition, they may start asking why the gods deserve obedience. Fire is not just warmth. Fire is independence. And tyrants do not fear weakness. They fear independence. So Zeus designs a punishment that does two things at once. First, it hurts humanity. Second, it gives humanity someone else to blame. That second part matters. A good scapegoat does not look like the person who planned the crime. A good scapegoat stands close to the moment of disaster. Pandora is placed at the visible point of release. She becomes the hand on the lid. But the hand on the lid is not the same as the mind that created the trap. If someone builds a poison device, places it inside a house, sends a person who does not understand the full danger, and then blames that person when it activates, we do not call that justice. We call it a setup. That is what the Pandora case looks like when the evidence is arranged in order. Prometheus gives fire. Zeus wants revenge. Zeus orders Pandora made. The gods load her with traits designed to affect human behavior. A jar of catastrophe is introduced. Humanity suffers. Pandora becomes the headline. Zeus becomes the judge. That is not an accident. That is narrative control. Every true crime case has a construction phase. A weapon is purchased. A route is planned. A lock is tested. In the Pandora case, the construction phase happens in the workshop of Hephaestus. Zeus gives the order. Hephaestus shapes Pandora from clay. Athena teaches her craft and adorns her. Aphrodite gives beauty and desire. Hermes gives cunning words, persuasive speech, and in some versions, a deceptive nature. The gods call these gifts, but gifts selected by conspirators are not neutral. They are design features. Pandora is not raised slowly into the world. She is assembled. Each god contributes something useful to the plan. Beauty, so she will be welcomed. Charm, so suspicion will lower. Speech, so she can move through human society. Curiosity, or a restless inner pull, so the jar becomes inevitable. This is not a woman accidentally finding trouble. This is Olympus building a person inside a revenge plot. And the cruelty is that Pandora herself may not understand the full design. She wakes into a role already written by gods. She is given a name that sounds generous. She is sent into a household that does not know how dangerous Zeus's gifts can be. She is surrounded by divine intention disguised as destiny. Then history points at her and says, guilty. But created tools do not choose the workshop. A clay figure does not choose the hands that shape it. Pandora did not select her traits from a menu. She did not ask to become the hinge between divine revenge and human suffering. She was made for a function, then condemned for functioning. That is why this case is darker than a morality tale. It is not just about curiosity. It is about manufacturing the conditions for a disaster, then blaming the person manufactured to complete it. Now we come to the central piece of evidence, the jar. Most people say box because later tradition changed the image. But the older object is a pithos, a large storage jar. That detail matters because a jar is not a tiny decorative object you forget on a shelf. It is a presence, a sealed container, a thing with weight, a thing that demands a question. What is inside? Who sealed it? Why is it here? The jar is the perfect mythological device because it turns ignorance into suspense. Pandora is not told the full truth in a way that gives her informed consent. She is placed near mystery, and mystery is not a weakness. Curiosity is one of the reasons humans survive. Curiosity asks what food is safe, what storm is coming, what sound moved in the dark, what law is being hidden. A world without curiosity is a world where power never gets questioned. So when Pandora is blamed for curiosity, we should ask who benefits from that lesson. Do not open the container. Do not ask what the gods sealed away. Do not investigate the gift. Do not question the punishment. Accept the story as delivered. That moral protects the people who packed the jar. The contents are also important. The suffering inside does not originate from Pandora's mind. She does not create illness. She does not invent labor pains. She does not manufacture grief. She releases what someone else has stored. That difference is everything. If a prisoner opens a door and a monster escapes, we ask who locked the monster there and why the prisoner had access. If a child opens a package and it explodes, we do not blame the child for inventing explosives. Pandora opens the jar. But Zeus built the scenario in which the jar exists. Imagine Pandora standing alone with the jar. The house is quiet. The seal is there. The command is there. Do not open it. But no honest explanation comes with the command. That is important. Rules without truth create pressure. Power loves to call obedience virtue while hiding the evidence. Pandora feels the pull. Maybe it is curiosity. Maybe it is divine design. Maybe Hermes placed deception inside her words and restlessness inside her mind. Maybe Zeus knew that the fastest way to make a mortal touch something is to make it forbidden and unexplained. Then the lid moves. The seal breaks. The world changes. Smoke, shadow, sickness, hunger, age, violence, sorrow. The invisible architecture of human pain pours out. And Pandora understands too late that the object near her was never harmless. This is where the official story zooms in on her hand. But we need to widen the frame. Behind that hand is Zeus. Behind Zeus is the fear of human progress. Behind the jar is a divine regime angry that mortals received fire. Pandora becomes the final visible contact point of a punishment designed above her pay grade. And after the release, one thing remains inside: hope. That detail has haunted interpreters for centuries. Is hope a blessing kept safe? Or is hope another trap, left inside so humanity will continue suffering because it believes tomorrow may be better? The case file does not give an easy answer, but either way, hope remaining in the jar proves one thing. The container was curated. Someone decided what went in. Someone decided what stayed. Someone engineered not only disaster, but the emotional conditions under which humans would survive disaster. Pandora did not design that balance. The gods did. There is another witness in this case who often escapes too easily. Prometheus. His name means afterthought. Prometheus means forethought. The brothers are almost a warning label. Prometheus thinks ahead. Epimetheus understands too late. Before Pandora arrives, Prometheus warns him not to accept gifts from Zeus. That means the danger is known, not fully maybe, but enough. Zeus cannot be trusted. A gift from him may be retaliation in disguise. Epimetheus accepts Pandora anyway. Some versions frame this as weakness before beauty. He sees her and forgets the warning. That makes him part of the failure. But even here, the hierarchy matters. Epimetheus is foolish. Zeus is malicious. Those are not the same crime. One man ignores a warning. One god creates a weaponized gift. And Pandora, again, is placed between male conflict and divine punishment. Prometheus steals. Zeus retaliates. Epimetheus accepts. Humanity suffers. Pandora is blamed. This pattern should feel familiar if you have studied mythology. A woman becomes the visible explanation for a crisis men and gods created around her. Helen becomes the face of the Trojan War, while kings and oaths and armies do the killing. Medusa becomes the monster, while Poseidon walks away. Cassandra becomes the madwoman, while Apollo's curse and Troy's denial destroy a city. Pandora becomes the sinner, while Zeus runs the entire operation. Different myths, same evidence problem. The woman is placed at the emotional center of the story. Then the machinery around her disappears. After the jar opens, the most useful thing Zeus can do is let the story simplify itself. People do not always blame the highest power. They blame the nearest face. Pandora is near, Pandora is new, Pandora is different. Pandora is easy to turn into a lesson. Do not trust the woman. Do not trust desire. Do not trust questions. That public blame protects Olympus better than any wall. Humanity receives suffering from above but argues about the woman beside the jar. The divine motive disappears behind domestic suspicion. A cosmic punishment becomes a household warning. That is why the case file matters. Because whoever controls the moral of the story controls where the anger goes. And in Pandora's story, the anger was redirected downward, away from Zeus, away from the gods, and toward the person with the least power in the entire operation. Zeus's motive is not hard to find. Control. Prometheus gave humanity fire. Fire narrowed the gap between mortal and divine. Zeus needed to reopen that gap. Pain does that. Mortals who suffer spend more time surviving. Mortals who age and grieve remember their limits. Mortals who fear death are easier to rule through sacrifice, prayer, and dependence. The jar does not only punish, it governs. It makes human life unstable. It ensures that even with fire, humans remain vulnerable. That is why blaming Pandora is so useful. If humans blame the first woman, they may not blame the king of the gods. If suffering becomes the consequence of female curiosity, divine tyranny becomes invisible. That is the propaganda layer of the myth. The story teaches suspicion toward the woman who opened the container, not toward the god who weaponized the container. It turns a political punishment into a domestic morality tale. Do not be curious. Do not disobey. Do not trust women. Do not ask what the gods are hiding. That is not just storytelling. That is damage control. Zeus does not need to be loved in the Pandora myth. He only needs not to be prosecuted. And for centuries, the case stayed closed because the headline worked. Pandora opened the box. 4 words. Simple. Memorable. Wrongly complete. Then there is the strangest item in the jar. Hope. After the evils escape, hope remains inside. For some readers, that is mercy. The world is wounded but not abandoned. Suffering enters human life, but so does the possibility of endurance. Hope stays close enough that people can survive what was released. But in a darker reading, hope is not pure comfort. Hope can also be control. Hope can keep a person working inside a system that keeps hurting them. Hope can make punishment survivable without making it just. Hope can whisper that tomorrow will be different, while power remains untouched. That ambiguity makes the jar even more suspicious. Because the contents are not random, they are balanced. Humanity receives pain, but not immediate extinction. Fear, but not total surrender. Grief, but not the end of desire. Work, illness, age, and death, but also the emotional fuel to continue living under those conditions. That looks less like an accident and more like governance. Zeus does not want humanity erased. He still wants worship, sacrifice, obedience, and dependence. A dead species cannot kneel. A broken but hopeful species can. So hope remaining in the jar may be the final signature of the planner. The punishment had to hurt forever, but it also had to leave humanity alive enough to keep looking upward. Pandora is blamed for opening the container, but the psychological design of that container is far beyond her. It belongs to whoever understood not only how humans suffer but how they continue. And that again points away from Pandora. It points back to Olympus' Ripida punishment. So what would Pandora's defense be? First, lack of origin. She did not originate the evils. They existed before release, stored by another power. Second, lack of informed consent. She was not given full knowledge of the jar's contents or the cosmic consequences of opening it. Third, manufactured disposition. The gods created her traits as part of a punishment plan. If curiosity or deception played a role, those traits may have been implanted by the same people accusing her. Fourth, entrapment. The jar was placed in her environment with conditions designed to produce failure. Fifth, disproportionate blame. Even if Pandora opened the jar, Zeus remains the planner, supplier, and ultimate beneficiary of the punishment. That does not erase Pandora's action. The lid did open. The world did change. But responsibility is not a spotlight that can only shine on one person. A proper investigation follows the chain upward, and every link leads back to Olympus. Was Pandora careless? Maybe. Was she curious? Yes. Was curiosity enough to make her the author of human suffering? No. Pandora was not the architect of the disaster. She was the delivery point. She was the face attached to a punishment Zeus wanted humanity to remember incorrectly. The gods made her. The gods sent her. The gods packed the jar. The gods created the conditions. Then mythology handed her the blame. That is why the Pandora case still matters. Because blaming the last person to touch the evidence is easier than confronting the system that created the crime. It is easier to condemn curiosity than to ask why truth was sealed away. It is easier to say a woman ruined the world than to admit a god punished humanity for becoming harder to control. So the next time someone says Pandora opened the box, remember the missing evidence. It was a jar. It was loaded before she arrived. It was part of a revenge plot, and the king of the gods was standing behind the whole thing. Case status: officially blamed on Pandora. Evidence status: incomplete. Final finding: Pandora was not the first sinner. She was the first scapegoat. And the real monster in this file was never curiosity. It was power hiding a punishment inside a gift.